American Horror Story 1984 is the ninth season of the FX horror anthology television series, American Horror Story, and I've seen one or two seasons a while back. This one is my favorite one yet. It actually might be one of my favorite seasons of horror. It's very, very campy. It's very, very fun, and I'm just a sucker for 1980s throwbacks and the music and the vibes and the costumes. I love everything about it, so it already had a big leg up in my book. What also made it resonate a lot with me is it takes a lot of the common horror tropes and it subverts it. It pays homage to it and does it in a really, really fun way, but it also takes it in new, exciting directions. So I don't want to give anything away, but I highly, highly recommend it if you enjoy campy horror, if you enjoy slasher films, if you enjoy 80s. It just hit all of the right places for me personally. I don't know if everybody will love it because the camp could be a little bit strong and it's not necessarily the scariest series or TV show. It's actually definitely not that scary because I get scared pretty easily and I wasn't really scared at all. It's a lot of fun though, and I think that really makes up for it, and that's the point of horror. And it's basically, if you don't know, it's about a bunch of young teenagers, young adults, and they are going to go be camp counselors at this campsite, at this camp that has a really, really, really dark past. And you know what happens if it's set in the 1980s and you have a bunch of camp counselors going into a place that has a dark past. A lot of killings happen, and all of these characters themselves have dark pasts that they need to deal with, certain situations and demons they're fighting. What makes this show really, really cool is that because it's 9 episodes, instead of just a one hour and a half or 2 hour story about what usually is something we call the final girl, which is the nice, naive virgin girl who sees all these terrible things happen, and she's always the last to die because she's the virginal innocent one, and all these like bad, slutty bullies get killed first. But in this movie, we have so much time that we actually really dive pretty deeply into the lives of multiple characters and not just the final girl. And we do have initially some archetypes. We have a jock, we have a pretty boy, we have the horror slut, which is usually the first one to get killed, and we have the final girl who's very innocent and naive. But that's not who they are at the beginning of the show, is not who they are at the end of the show. And each of them go through their own arc, some more redemptive, some they go down a darker path. And not only do we have these stories of the campers, we have a lot of different murders, and some of them based on real life killers, and some of them they make it up in the show. But it's really, really fun how all of these killers intertwine, and everyone has their own very, very clear motivation. Maybe even too clear. It might feel like you're getting spoon fed exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it, but I really like and appreciate that clarity. At no point was I confused about why a character necessarily was doing something. At the same time, I also didn't know which way the story was going to take. And I actually got Place Beyond the Pine vibes, if you guys know that film. Because we travel through different times, we jump back and forth, and we see different generations of how this curse and these horrors are affecting different members of a family. There's actually quite a lot of depth too, because we have to really think about what makes a murder, and if that's something that you can pass on genetically or nature versus nurture. There's a lot of that questioning going on. A lot of the dialogue, one of its weak points is the dialogue is pretty on the nose. The characters will describe their inner feelings a lot in these long monologues. I didn't mind it though. I feel like it follows along with the theme of just this is a campy fun horror. But I can see how some people might feel like this is just spoon feeding us character development. I don't want to end on that negative note, but wait, did I mention that this is set in the 80s? This is a lot of fun. I especially I love the first episode, and I really, really like the last episode. And hopefully you've already been convinced to watch. But this actually made me feel things and not just fun or horror. I actually was pretty touched. I teared up. I'm not going to lie. This was something I did not expect was the emotional impact of this show. And that's all I'm gonna say. American Horror Story 1984, so much fun, such a great like flex of this genre, with influences like Friday the 13th and Halloween, the classics. But I think they really, really do something new, and I love it.